Hello, we're back at the Apidays Interface for the last segment of the day, where we'll be talking about, let's say, who are the next users of APIs, right? Who are the users we don't expect, maybe as a next generation of users, API and SaaS, and we will talk about all these topics. Yeah, we will try to determine, like, what are the weak signals, like the trends who are we maybe not following directly, but like that's actually coming. So we will talk about the no-code mindset and the SaaS API mindset with Francis Lelong, CEO of Alegria Tech. So Francis,
Hello.
Nice to have you at the Apidays Interface. So I invite you, yes, to share your slide. It's perfect. And yes, let's dive into what you have for us and continue the discussion.
Yes, great. Thanks. Nice to meet you all here. It's a pleasure for me to present here today at the Apidays for the 10th anniversary. So my name is Francis Lelong. I'm the co-founder and CEO at Alegria Group. I'm worked for 25 years now in the digital industry. I'm the former founder and CEO of Sarenza.com, which is in Europe a copycat of Zappos. So my background is more B2C, e-commerce, and those kind of things. I will speak later about Alegria, what we are doing here, but just a short introduction, perhaps in just a couple of slides about what is no-code today and why everyone speaks about no-codes those days. Perhaps just two very important figures to begin, 2-3 important figures. The first one is a huge demand on digital applications, 5 million applications to create by 2025. It means not multiplied by 2 or 5 or 10, it's multiplied by 100 compared to the last decade. It's more applications to create than all time long in the software industry. So it's just huge, large demand, and specifically because of SMBs, which are going to automatize, digitalize a lot of part of their businesses. The second figure is the number of people who are developers, coders. Only 0.3% of the worldwide population knows how to code today. So it's very, very small amount of persons. And moreover, if you are looking at the repartition of the women and men in this population, you have only 15% of women. So all those persons have really the power to decide what kind of projects can emerge in the digital industry and which are the ones who are never going to live. It's a real problem. If you compare with the number of people who knows how to read or to write, it's 86% of the worldwide population who knows how to read, to count, to write. 0.3% is the number of people who knew how to read and to write 500 years ago. So we are in kind of this period in the digital years. It's really crazy. How many people are really know how to code today. So the lack of developers is very high. 1.4 million of software developers are missing in the USA, and it's not going to decrease. In Europe, it's pretty much the same figures. So the no-code is the only solution to try to solve this. It takes 3 to 5 years to train a good developer. It's very hard to find people who want to become a developer, even if the salaries are very high. And here in France, for instance, all the schools are fighting to find students to work and to become developers. So this problem is going to continue to grow. And again, the only solution we have on the table to try to reduce the lack of developers is really the no-code. And this is the reason why all the no-code tools raised so much money last year, more than $5 billion US invested in no-code tools last year. So the market is just going to rise also very fast. And what we are trying to do here at Alegria is really to try to find solution at what Yu, the founder of Airtable, said in September 2020. 500 million of apps are about to be created. We need more software builders, not just users. Software builders is another word to say a no-code maker. This is the way you are the name you are giving to those persons. It's really a new job. Last year we had only 100% working at a full time as a pro no-code maker in France. It's 1,000 this year, and it's going to be probably 100,000 in the next 3 or 4 years. So this revolution is really on this way, and Alegria Group was founded 1.5 years ago, and we intend to become the no-code leader, the leader in no-code technologies in the next 2 or 3 years. We are already the leader in Europe, and what we are trying to create is a community of pro no-code makers, which would be able to create 100,000 apps per year. So it's huge. It needs to totally change the way companies are working on software development. Our mission, just in a short terms, is really to try to transform organization by making software accessible to all through no-code, and accessible to all is very important because, as you know, citizen developers is a very important trend. What we are trying to do is to give keys to people in the company to help them to create their own tools. Our conviction here at Alegria is that it's really the time to replace Word, Excel, and PowerPoint, the Microsoft Office tool, which are 30 years old now, into the no-code tools, because they are the tools that people need in the companies now to deliver value expected in a world where internet is everywhere. So to do this, we have 2 solutions. The first one, as I said previously, is really to create the largest pro no-code makers community in the world. And the second thing is to train professional makers, because what we understood last year is that we are creating another problem, and the new problem is the lack of pro no-code makers, the same difficulties that we could have with the developers. The good news is that we can train a pro no-code makers in 6 to 12 months compared to 3 to 5 years for a developer. And those guys can become pro no-code makers without any technical background, and they can produce from 70 to 80% of what a developer can do in a company, if we think about creating tools for business mainly, which is what the companies are looking for today. So let's speak about API. This is the idea of this meeting. What we noticed at Alegria is that we have a lot of tools today, a lot of new softwares. 1, 2, 3 new no-code tools are launched on Product Hunt on every day now. So we have more than 750 no-code tools on our catalog at Alegria. And mainly, why those tools are very interesting, because they have an open API or REST API in most of the times. And today we cannot recommend a tool to our customer if this tool is not open to be integrated in a large panel of other softwares to create a solution. If you are looking at all the software editors here in France, SaaS software editors, most of them don't have any API yet. For instance, if you are looking at Payfit, if you are looking at Alan or those kind of companies, they are very large companies here in France, but they are just thinking about how to connect their tools with other tools. Until now, most of the time, they are hard coding a connection with a partner, which is very long and very complicated. And you can really do this totally differently today using no-code. So what we are doing now, and what is important to understand in a world where also, as you know, it's very important to be integrated in an ecosystem of tools. we are trying to address these issues with 3 offers now. It's like a 360 degrees offer for SaaS software tools. So first thing is to design a strategy. API first is very important today. Headless also is very important. So you need to define a strategy for your SaaS tool. The team who is going to work on this, the process, the business model, how you are going to earn more money with your API, your REST API, security for sure, scalability, the tech tools. For instance, we are working with Conto, which is a fintech here in France, creating today all their connectors, their workflow connectors with our no-code makers. So it's in production. They have more than 400,000 customers. And all the connectors which are provided in the library of Conto are produced in the code today. But to be able to do this, first you need a strategy. The second part is to create those connectors with your tech team. The idea is really to go faster on the creation of workflows or on the connectors library you could need on your business. The idea for sure most of the time is to create with us 80% of the most demanding tools to connect with your SaaS. But we can also do bespoke for some customers. And this is the third part of our proposition to the SaaS editors, is really to help them to manage their API business. It could be like a customer service for the REST API for your customers. When you have a customer, we send a request for a connection with dedicated tools. And if you don't have done it yet, we could develop it with our no-code tools very fast in a very interesting cost for them. And for sure, it's creating a lot of loyalty. There's a study which was done, I guess, by Typeform, which said that when they open their REST API, they increased their sticky for 20%, between 15 to 20%. So it's very, very important to have this, because as you can guess, when your tool is connected to other tools in a tech environment at your customer, it's definitely more difficult to replace it by another tool because you will have to recreate all the connections. So it's very important to have it and to use it. So if you are focusing on integrating a REST API for your customers, it's something which is really not easy to do. Your customers need to have the specific tools. Perhaps they go to Zapier, perhaps they go to Make or some other tools. They need to understand all your API documentation, which is not easy. Again, it really depends on the type of customers you can have, but most of the time it's very difficult for them to understand what is an API, what is a JSON, how to collect data, the get and the put commands. All those kind of things are not easy to understand. And also you need to have something which is going to work all time long. As you know, when you are using Zapier or Make, it can happen that the connection fell down, so you need to fix it. You need also to maintain the connections, because you can have some new needs, new data that needs an update on the connections. And so this is also something which could be very difficult to do by your customers. So we are trying to really fill a gap between the SaaS tools customer service. When you receive a demand at your customer service, guys, do you have a connector for these tools? Most of the time you send a Zapier video to help them how to do this, but it's not that simple most of the time. For your official integrators, most of the time they are working with large companies for very high price and for complex integrations. So that's great, but it's not the good answer for all of your customers. And at the end, if an integrator is too expensive for your customer, the customer can try to do it by himself. But if in his company he doesn't have any tech guy, it could be very complicated for him even to use Zapier or Make, as I said before. So Alegria is here to fill this gap and to be a dedicated solution for the customer service about API connections for the companies who are API first. So what we are doing is very easy for this part of our business model. We are connecting with you, which is also very important, is to try to industrialize the connection with your customer service. So your customer service, when they have a demand on this, they can directly send it to us. You can share the request through this thing, and also what is very important is to have on those kind of services security, because it's not possible to exchange the API keys on an email or on a Slack conversation. So what we are trying to do with software editors we are working with is to try to have a direct connection with your API and to hide all the API numbers, so you cannot have breach in your in the security for you and for the customers. So this is the ideal way of doing the things. It's not always possible, but this is the way it should have been done. And then we are creating the connection with your tool and the tool your customers want to be created. So it's a very interesting business model because it's free for you. You will earn a lot of royalty from your customers by sharing these kind of things. It's really a modern way of creating more business with your REST API. For the customers who are asking for these connections, it's a fixed price depending on the work we have to do, from 100 euro to 1K. So it's very cheap. You can go very fast on doing those kind of connections. And after that, we have a subscription model from 5 to 10 euros per month per automation that help us to maintain, to update it, and also to try to make it up always. If it's gone down, we are working on this to fix the problems if problems appear on this kind of things. So this is just an example of what we can do today with Alegria and REST API. Just a few words about the founders, but it's not very important for us today. And just a few words also about companies we are working for. So it's a very wide range of companies, from startups to large companies today. So this is what I wanted to share with you on the no-code and REST API. And if you have any questions, I would be very happy to chat with you about this.
Yes, thank you very much, Francis. So let's say a quick question that we have. So someone who build no code, is it a coder, a no coder? Like, how do you call it?
We call it a maker, a pro no-code maker. You have three kind of personas. You have the citizen maker, the guys who are going to have a look at some tutos online and to use Airtable to manage his wine library, for instance, like I was done at the first time when I met Airtable 5 years ago. You have the no-code ops. The no-code ops are the guys who are working in a company, doing something and using tools to do his mission in the company. But he's not a pro no-code maker. He's going to be trained to use Notion, Bubble, Shopify, or whatever tool, and he's going to use it on an everyday basis in his company. And you have the pro no-code makers, the guys who are working with on an everyday basis in our community. Those guys earn their money by selling their time to create solutions with no-code tools.
Okay, so yeah, different names. I've heard also the name citizen developers sometimes.
Exactly, it's something which is very used by Microsoft, for instance, and some other low-code tools like Mendix, BettyBlocks, and some others. So it's pretty much the same, but we are trying really to make a differentiation between all those kind of personas, because it's definitely different. But in a certain way, all the persons who are going to use no-code tools could be citizen developers.
So a question about the shadow IT. It's true that a lot of SaaS services over the last 20 years have been seen as shadow IT. Now IT is taking ownership on security and authorization and personal data. With the no-code tools, like is it still shadow IT, like when business teams don't want to talk to IT teams, or now is it governed now?
Yeah, it's governed. It is the main difference between the shadow IT. The no-code is really a solution to reduce the shadow IT because, as you know, in a marketing team, for instance, if you need to create landing pages and the IT don't give any solutions for it, the guys are going to do it by themselves, and perhaps in a way which is not compliant with the security of the company. So when you want to go no-code, and if you are a large company, the first thing you have to do is really to define the governance and specifically securities, which kind of people can access to what kind of data, and all those rules. So it's no-code is really the beginning of the end of the shadow IT. But keep in mind that the persons who are doing shadow IT are very good people to move to no-code. Most of the time, they are the persons who introduce those tools in the company, asking the CTOs to allow them to use those tools. You also have to know that all the no-code tools, most of the most famous no-code tools like Notion or Table are SOC 2 certified now, so they can really give all the security assessments that large companies are asking now, as Microsoft or Encore or all the other tools.
Yeah, so it seems like it was the IT department that was late and too long to respond. So business teams there were saying, "Okay, let's do the no code." But now it seems now they're able to govern it, so they can do it in a totally governed manner. We have a question about like the culture, the IT culture of the let's say makers or non-developers. Because, for example, let's take an example. A lot of people may use Bubble or Airtable without really understanding, what's access level authorization, access level management, and maybe what is the scope all and giving access to the whole database versus giving access to exactly what's needed for a third party application or a colleague or an employee or a user. Like how do you manage this? Let's say this culture, right? Even developer had issues to understand. But it must be even harder for non-developers.
Yeah, no, it's a very good question. First of all, let me say that it's not always coming from the people from the company who is asking for no-code tools. CTOs and tech guys also are pushing for no-code now because they understood that it's a good way to manage the backlog of the solutions they will never have time to do. So everyone is going to merge on this idea that no-code is really a solution. What you said is also very interesting because you need to train people. You need to find promoters of the no-code. You need to find the persons who are really early adopters of those tools, and you need to train people to learn how to use it and how to manage it. In France, we have a large company, SNCF, who developed more than 12,000 apps on Microsoft Power Platform. In 5 years, they have today 7,500 makers in the company who are trained to learn how to use the Power Platform. Out of 120,000 people, so it's roughly 8% of the company who is now trained on this, and they really manage it very well because once the people are trained, once you prepare the data and so they can access only the data they can use, you made a big part of what you need to do in terms of governance. So it's really possible. It will take time because from people from my age, for instance, most of my friends only used Microsoft Office for 30 years and they never used another tool, perhaps sometimes SAP or Salesforce, but it's very difficult for them to learn a new tool. It's totally different with the Generation Z or the young people working in a company today because they can learn a tool very fast. They have 20 tools they are using on an everyday basis. So this agility we really need to accompany this because it's very important for them to be able to use the right tool for what they have to do.
Yeah, I understand. So last question, is it does it take longer or shorter to train a no-coder or a maker versus a junior software engineer?
Yes, totally. And this is where the big thing is. In our academy, Alegria Academy is the first pro no-code maker school in the world. We launched it a couple of months ago. And what we know today is that it's true. It's definitely possible to train someone from 6 months to 1 year to become a pro no-code maker, compared to 3 to 5 years to become a real dev. So it's definitely much more faster, and moreover, which is also very important to say, it's more inclusive. We have 35% of people who are women who are applying to our school. We have 50% of women in our school, and we have people who are coming from very different kind of area in reconversion from very different kind of jobs before. So it's really open, it's really much more easy, and they can create great tools in companies for a very fast return on investment.
Yeah, so it seems no code is can scale because of the ability of people to learn really fast. It can be secured because these platforms are SOC 2 certified. It seems it can be governed by the IT department. So yeah, definitely. And just last thing, but you said there's 0.3% of developers in the world, right? And actually, someone said this is the exact same number of the water we can drink versus the water we can't drink. Is 0.3% of potable water, drinkable water. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I don't know why they shared that, but maybe there is a correlation.
Interesting comparison, but yes, it's crazy to know that in 2022, such a few people knows how to code. It's really a democratic problem, and today, because of no code, we can see emerging a lot of startups bootstrapped by people who have no tech competencies, and they can launch their company because of no code. So that's great, and it's very, very important to have those tools today to continue to innovate.
Yeah, perfect, Francis. Thank you very much.